Hello everybody, welcome back to a new video. So I'm going to be talking about manga that has made me cry today. And I don't mean cry like one tear or two. I mean I was like bawling on the floor, ugly crying. Next day my eyes were poofy type of crying. It goes without saying that I recommend most of these mangas here. Also, this is not the only video I'm going to do on this because these are not the only mangas that have made me cry. So I'm going to be doing like a part 2, part 3. But let's talk about the first manga series I have here, and that is Happiness. So if I'm being honest, I wasn't actually expecting for this manga to make me cry, but let's just get into the story for a bit. So our story centers around a high school boy who he kind of gets bullied at school. At times he feels like he gets overshadowed by his older brother. He doesn't really have a lot going on for him. And the news has been reporting that there have been a series of animal attacks throughout the night. At least that's what the authorities and the news is reporting, but nobody really knows what it is. And one night, our main protagonist, he goes out to like return like a DVD or something when he gets attacked by one of these animals. Except that it's not an animal, it's a vampire. Now, I guess through an act of mercifulness, this vampire gives him the option to either decide if he wants to, die as a human or live on as a vampire. And you guys can guess that he chose to live on as a vampire without truly understanding the consequences of the decision he just made. Because he goes through some horrible things. Now, there's also like this secondary main character who equally goes through some horrible things, but what made me cry in this manga was the unconditional love the main protagonist receives from his family. It isn't even something that's like plays like a huge role in the main like plot, but just the fact that the family knows something is wrong and something is different with their son, but despite all that they don't like press him too much and they're okay with it as long as they know he's safe, was truly beautiful and equally sad. The last volume had me like bawling on the floor. Honestly, I don't even think it was meant for it to be that sad, but it really, I don't know why I got like so emotional on that part. Just seeing his parents being like I said, like giving him unconditional love, his brother as well. It was just truly like bittersweet. Also, this is my favorite cover from the series. Isn't it so pretty? But yeah, Happiness is a really good series. I obviously highly recommend it. Moving on to the next manga I have here. Okay, so the next manga I have on my list is No Longer Human, and this one's the one that I probably have the most trouble recommending people, purely based on the contents of the manga itself. So if you're familiar with No Longer Human, it's based on a novel. However, this is probably my favorite version in terms of manga of No Longer Human. I mean, I'm glad we have it now at reprint because I have the original 3 single volumes that are now severely out of print, but as you can see, we got the omnibus treatment for this. What's also interesting about this is that it's not in this traditional right to left, but left to right like format. And the reason for this is because the mangaka believed that this piece of literature and work was very important, that he wanted to make it for people overseas like easier for us to read. But yeah, that's like already pretty interesting in itself. But if we're talking about the story, right? The story centers around this young man, and we follow his life basically when he was a boy up until his young adulthood. And we see that even when he was a young boy, he had a hard time like really finding interest in anything. He really couldn't connect with people, and the one thing he kind of liked, he couldn't pursue it because his father didn't let him. Our main protagonist basically lives his life where he just does what he's told. He doesn't really question anything because he doesn't really have an interest in anything. He gets close to bad influences. He picks up bad habits, really bad habits, and we see that his family at one point disowns him. His life is basically slowly spiraling down into despair, hopelessness, and nothingness. And whenever we feel that there is a light or a glimmer of hope, it eventually gets crushed. I'll say right now, this manga does not have a happy ending. It is very depressing and sad. Even I have a hard time rereading it at times, so I wouldn't really recommend this manga unless you are in like a safe environment and are in a safe state of mind. But yeah, that is basically all I really have to say about this, and I will move on to the next series. I don't really want to talk about this anymore. Let's move on to the next manga I have in this list. So moving on to a more lighter tone, the next manga series I have is Natsume and the Book of Friends. So this manga is possibly my favorite manga of all time. Now, with that being said, it is not for everybody because some people might think it's slow or repetitive or too episodic, but even so, it's still like very close to my heart, and it's probably the manga that has made me cry the most out of everything in this whole list. This manga centers around a boy named Natsume who is an orphan, and he gets passed on from one family to another until he moves to a small town in the countryside. Now there he inherits this book called the Book of Friends from his late grandma, and inside the book are names of yokai. Now the reason why that is important is because whoever is the owner of the book can control all the yokai whose name is written in it. Natsume, even though he doesn't want to have anything to do with yokai because it's more or less the reason why people abandon him, decides to keep the Book of Friends because he understands to a certain degree the level of power it holds, and he doesn't want it to fall in the wrong set of hands. So through this book, he starts forming connections with these yokai who start asking for their names back. So there are a lot of bittersweet moments, there are a lot of sad moments, a lot of happy moments, but I think what made me cry in this manga the most was seeing how throughout life Natsume is this sweet, nice, and cheerful person and is constantly being beaten down by life and by the people who should have taken care of him. And despite all that, whenever he does see them again, he is still nice to them. Like I said, it is not for everybody. I would honestly recommend watching the anime first because it has an anime. It's very good. Get some tissues, have them ready because you will be crying. I can guarantee it. And if you like the anime, I would say then you should start getting into the manga. There is a lot more I want to say about this, but I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want this video to be too long. So we're going to move on to the next manga I have on this list. Okay, next one I have is Bokurano, or Hours. So for Bokurano, I actually saw the anime first and then decided to read the manga because I heard that the manga was a bit different than the anime. And yes, there are some differences, however, the main plot is still there. So the story centers around these 15 kids who one day are at a beach and they decide to explore this cave. Now inside this cave, they meet a man who asks them if they want to play a little game. And honestly, if anybody just asks you that, just walk away. But anyways, so this man asked them if they want to play a game, and they thought it would be interesting, so they start playing this game. Now this game that they talk about consists of them controlling a mech who fights this opposing mech. Now this opposing mech appears on different days and it changes all the time. However, there is a catch to this game they're playing. So once they win a fight against the opposing mech, whoever is controlling the mech dies. Now that might be a bit of a spoiler, but I still wanted to include it because if you are uncomfortable with kids dying, this manga is not for you. And I think now you guys can understand why this manga has made me cry. We follow these kids' journey and we see a lot of their backstories and see why they act a certain way or why they are the way they are. Sometimes we feel sad for them, sometimes we sympathize with them, sometimes we hate them. The story overall is amazing, but it is also tragic. The anime is also very good, and I honestly don't know which one of the two I prefer over the other. But anyways, that is basically the list I have overall. So here is the mangas for this video. Like I said, I am planning on making a part 2 and a part 3, although I don't know when, but look forward to them. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Hopefully you guys found some recommendations here. Bye!